Welcome to Junkyard Theory, folks. Today we have someone in the studio who is a martial artist. He is an action choreographer, a stunt person, actor, writer, producer, director, you name it, the full spectrum. I am so stoked to have Simon Rhee on board the show today. Simon, thank you so much for joining.
You're welcome. Your English is very good.
Thank you.
Did you live in the States for a while or something?
I've been there a few times. Been there a few times, but grew up learning English. So yeah, but man, I am more interested in hearing about your origin story. Tell me how you joined. How did you get into filmmaking?
I guess my first motivation is watching Bruce Lee on a movie theater.
Oof,
And
the man.
yes, I saw him kicking, and I'm thinking, hey, I could do that. And I guess that was the beginning of my journey.
And you grew up learning Taekwondo and Hapkido. Talk to me a bit about your martial arts background, roughly around what age did you guys start, and how did you and your brother both, Philip Rhee, enter the film business?
I started when I was 10 years old, and my brother was about seven. We went to Taekwondo school every day in Seoul, Korea. And I got my first degree black belt 2 years later, and then we moved to California. And once we moved to California in San Francisco, we started learning Hapkido from instructor Murang Choi. So I reached a black belt there. And then in 1975, I went to visit my aunt in Los Angeles. And then there was a Los Angeles Taekwondo instructor named Master Jun Chong, and
Mhm.
he was making a movie in Los Angeles. And I called him to pay respect and wish him happy Thanksgiving. And he said, Simon, Philip, I'm shooting a movie right now, so come to Long Beach right now. So we went to Long Beach, and then they were shooting a movie, and we got in there and we did a quick fight scene, and that's how it all started.
Yeah, and I'm assuming this was the one Bruce Lee Rises from the Grave. Was it that one?
Yep, that's the one. Bruce Lee fight back from the grave.
You had these Bruce exploitation back in the day, right after Bruce Lee passed away. It was
Right. Well,
73.
everybody did.
Yeah. But I mean, everyone kind of got their start. I've had Andy Cheng on the show before as well. I think you know Andy Cheng, and
Oh, we're good.
every
We're very good friends.
there you go. Everyone comes from starts from that one point, Bruce Lee, and then you branch out into you can always trace history back to Bruce Lee. Anyone who's been interested in martial arts cinema after the 70s comes from inspired
Excuse
by
me.
him.
Did you know Andy Cheng and we are the only two people in the United States that got to double Jackie Chan? Did you know that?
I was gonna ask you about that.
Yeah.
You doubled him in the Rush Hour trilogy. Filling Jackie's shoes is no easy task. You would know.
Of course. But it was an honor.
What was that process like?
Um, Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan normally brings his own stunt team, and his original stunt double got hurt. He rolled his ankle. So then the American stunt coordinators asked me to double Jackie on Rush Hour 3. And in the beginning, I was quite nervous because I didn't know whether Jackie would approve it or not. But Jackie was very gracious and he approved it, and we got along really, really well. And had a great time doubling him. And of course, I got some bumps and bruises, but it was well worth the experience. So yeah, I had a good time. That was, I believe 2006 or 2007.
Jackie is someone who's notoriously known for performing his own stunts. It's like stuntman legend right there. Which
Yeah.
stunts were you kind of doubling him for?
So the scene where he's being chased in the alley, and then this Mercedes Benz is try to run him over, and he runs up towards the big trash bin, and then he jumps up, and then the Mercedes Benz hits the trash bin, and I fall onto the trash bin and roll down to the Mercedes Benz. That was one of it. Another one was running, and I'm running through the traffic and jumping down into a tree from one street to a below a level street. And another one was falling off on Eiffel Tower with the bad guy. So those were the like 3 stunts that I had to do for that movie.
Gotcha. I want to kind of go back a little bit further. I was introduced to you through Best of the Best. I think I was around 4 or 5 years old when I watched this movie, and man, did I hate you for killing Tommy's brother. And then later I realized, you are Tommy's real brother.
That's correct.
That movie is, still, I think amongst martial arts enthusiasts, such as myself, it holds a particular place right up there. Talk to me about the creation of this film, because you were involved in more than just acting.
Well, in 1980s, a lot of kung fu exploitation movies were coming out, and so many movies had sex, violence, drugs, revenge, gratuitous violence just for the sake of having violence. And my brother and I, we thought that, the real martial artists don't do that. And we wanted to make something that the martial artists could really, really relate to. And from some of the tournament experiences that me and my brother both went through, and that's where we got our inspiration to make this movie. So that's how the movie came about. If you notice that there is no sex or violence, for the movie, and like most of the training scene was for real. Yeah, and the interesting thing was at the end when I gave the medals to my brother, I was supposed to give it to him and speak in Korean. And then the American coach, Sally Kirkland, was supposed to translate that in English. But she got sick that day. She wasn't feeling well. So my brother came up to me and goes, Simon, you have to do this. Okay, am I back on?
You're back on.
Okay, good. Yeah, so the Sally Kirkland wasn't feeling well, so I had to do it in broken English at the last minute, which I wasn't prepared for. But I think that worked out better for the movie. So it was kind of like luck of the draw that happened. And we did it that way, and it all worked out well. And
Certainly. Because when Dehan, your character was Dehan, if I'm pronouncing it right.
that's correct, Dehan.
Yeah, when Dehan talks in broken English, it just adds a whole lot more to his character. You see this almost two-dimensional person who accidentally killed Tommy's brother. He's like this brute all throughout the movie, but when he walks up to Tommy's character and speaks in broken English, like trying to. That's essentially respecting your adversary for, not delivering that spin kick and killing you in a way.
Yeah, the honor in martial
The
arts,
honor,
honor and
exactly.
respect. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what we wanted to portray to our audience.
and that was brilliantly done. I always thought it was like so brilliantly done. And your character, of course, returns in Best of the Best too, in a much a more reduced role. But I think the whole brother dynamic is built up from the first movie. When it came to the sequel, what expectations were you guys like trying to surpass, if at all?
And Best of the Best too, we weren't um, expecting to make a sequel, I guess. But then
Hmm.
I guess it was 20th Century Fox. They loved the movie so much and it did so well. They asked for a sequel, and so um, we had to come up with the story right away to make it. But the funniest thing it is what Eric Roberts said to me, because I didn't have very much uh, time in front of camera. So he goes, Simon, you don't have that much time in front of camera, so I trust you when you teach me martial art technique. So please trust me when I teach you this acting technique. So I said, okay, what is it? And he
Hmm.
goes, you have one line in this movie, and this is when we're in a nightclub, and this big guy comes up to me and he goes, hey boy, where you from? And my line was Houston. And so Eric Roberts goes, I want you to really, really butcher that line. And I said, why? And he goes, just trust me and do this for me. I said, okay. So when the guy goes, hey boy, where you from? And I said, Houston, you know, and I butchered it. And the funny thing is, so many people that saw the movie remember the way I said it. So sometimes people will come up to me and they go, Houston, and it's just, so Eric was correct about that.
You made it memorable.
Well, thanks to Eric.
Mm. And man, did he get ripped for the sequel?
Say that again.
He got really ripped for the sequel. Like you could see the preparation.
Oh, he did. And I was
Yeah.
training him how to use the bow staff, and he would practice till his hands would bleed. And he's such a great, great actor. I learned a lot from him.
So from the actors you train, your acting career, I think you're focusing now like more on stunt choreography and action design, and also training actors in martial arts. In your career, when it comes to training actors, maybe those who have martial arts training or without, what techniques do you kind of employ, given that you have enough time to get them up to speed?
The first thing is teaching them how to get into a proper fighting stance, because audience could tell whether this guy's a fighter or not as soon as they get into a fighting stance. So I make them spend a lot of time getting into a fighting stance. They got to give me at least perfect 3 fighting stances. And then, because most of the time, stunt doubles could do everything from the back, But then the last technique, you finish your opponent and get into a fighting stance. We want that to be an actor's face, an actor's fighting stance. So that's the first thing I teach all my actors to make sure they know how to get into a perfect fighting stances. So after I spend 10, 15, 20 minutes on that, then I get into them how to punch correctly. And then after that, kicking is of course the harder part because kicking takes a longer time to learn. And then I will teach them how to kick.
Gotcha. I've seen early. This was not stuff that you were involved in, of course. Some actors punch like this.
I
It
see
takes a
it too.
long, yeah, takes them a long time to like wrap their thumb around their fist. But
You're supposed to go like you're supposed to go was this camera supposed to go like this? I seen actors go like this instead of like that. It's really funny.
It is. It is. Talk to me a bit about since you come from a martial arts background, how has this helped your filmmaking career? Something that most people talk about is, of course, discipline. But is there any other transferable skill that has helped you throughout the years?
Knowing, you know how in martial arts training you have to go through testing to earn your belt.
Grading, essentially.
Yeah, grading. And sometimes it's very, very hard. And there are times when I was working on movie projects that I wanted to quit so bad because it was so difficult to either dealing with time, dealing with actors, dealing with different departments. But it was always the martial arts training that helped me through. If I don't do this, I would not, pass this belt testing. So every time I face a hard time, I would always think about the testing that I had to go through to become a black belt. So I used that as my motivation to get through all of the hard times.
Resilience.
Yep.
Yeah. When you when you are approached to direct or choreograph an action sequence, you probably, I'm assuming, you get a script or some sort of an idea about where you need to take the fight scene, the action scene from point A to point B. How do you start about crafting the scene?
I always follow the script of what the script is said. And then sometime I would run into a director that doesn't mind me going off the script. For instance, when I was doing a movie called Doorman with Ruby Rose, script had something written, Ruby does this and Ruby does that. So I choreographed exactly what was written. And then the director came up to me and said, I don't mind if you make it better, go bigger, go further, So I was like, wow, that was like, fresh air that director is letting me just improvise as much as I want to. So sometimes you get that, and sometimes you get a director who just wants you to stick to the script. So they said, no, don't put that in there. I just want to go with what the script is, what's written on the script. So every fight is different, and you just have to read the script and give the director some ideas, and if they like it, then you go with it. If they want you to improvise it more, then you improvise it more. Like, for instance, one time I was a fight coordinator on Terminator Genesis, and the director and the producers, they all came up to me and said, oh, Simon, we like Raid. Oh, we like Matrix. Oh, we like Ip Man. So I said, you want me to choreograph a fight like Matrix and Raid and Ip Man? Even the Terminator don't fight like that? Okay, so I put a little bit of Matrix, a little bit of Wing Chun, Ip Man, a little bit of Malaysian martial arts, and then we shoot a previous and we show to the producer and director, and they look at it and they go, Terminator don't fight like this. And I said, I know that, but why are you guys telling me? So yeah, it's kind of hectic sometimes. You have to pick and choose wisely.
That's true. Sometimes you don't get the directions properly, and you have to go ahead with their directions, and then they see it and they realize, okay, this doesn't work. But you knew that it wasn't going to work from get-go. With time, I'm assuming that action choreography, stunts, everything's kind of, in a way, become safer, hopefully. The whole evolution of something. You've been doing this for like 3 decades. What are the most drastic changes that you've seen happen within the industry?
I guess the first thing is safety. All the production company that I ever worked for, they don't want to see anyone getting hurt. So that's the first thing that we all concentrate on, making sure that everything is done safely. So that I noticed that people who are rigging is becoming very, very popular. And there are so many different ways of rigging. Before they will put a string on you and just pull you up in the air and bring you down. And now everything is computerized. So they could pull you up, make you travel left, make you travel right, all kinds of things, and then put you down. And so yeah, I think that's the most advanced technology change that I've seen lately.
For the audience, rigging is mostly involved when it comes to wire stunts with like the body kit and the harness essentially with the ropes. Yeah. What about firework? I'm assuming I remember you won a Taurus Award for, I can't remember the title, but for getting caught on fire or something, right?
Right. That was for Letter from Iwo Jima. I did that for Clint Eastwood. He was directing it. And yeah, that one is still done practically. So that was really, really kind of scary one because they were going to shoot a flamethrower from the top. And the flame was supposed to come down towards my feet first. And then the fire was going to go up. So I said, are you sure you're going to be able to shoot my feet from way up there? And then the special effect was, yeah, don't worry about it. So I'm doing it. And if you see the clip, you see the flame coming and hit me in the face first. Yeah. So take a look at it if you get a chance. And then after that, my whole body goes on fire.
Damn. You mentioned stunts being done practically and catching on fire, but the industry has quite shifted towards mixing things up with CGI. How do you find working on a film set where you have to prepare? Can you hear me, right? Because I keep hearing an echo again.
You're breaking up.
Am I breaking up? Okay.
Okay, now I could hear you now.
Better?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. In an industry where visual effects, CGI is taking precedence more and more nowadays, how do you deal with films where you have to prepare for something that's going to be replaced digitally later on? Is there anything? Is there anything that you had to take into consideration while prepping for a fight scene, action scene, whatever that's going to be, integrated with CGI later on?
There's something I cannot control. There's a lot of different reasons why they do use CGI. Sometimes it is for safety, and sometimes it is for budgetary reasons. Because let's say doing a stunt CGI is more cost effective, and then the production will go that way. But if doing the stunts is more cost effective, they might want to go that way. For instance, I'm coordinating a American Horror Stories, and there's a scene where the car's supposed to get T-boned, which meant 2 other cars was going to get damaged if you did it practically. So they said, okay, we're going to cheat this one and we'll use CGI and the camera angles. So, sometimes it all depends on the budget. Like big movies, they have plenty of money. They'll do it any way that they see fit. So it's really not in my control of that anymore.
Yeah. But is there anything that you specifically keep in mind? Like, let's say they are actually gonna, you have a stunt maybe inside a car, it's gonna get flipped. I'm just hypothetically putting a scenario out there. Something's gonna get, like a car's gonna get flipped, and you probably have 2 people, let's say, fighting underneath that. Is there anything that you take into consideration when choreographing or action designing something like this?
So normally on pre-production, we'll have a meeting about certain scenes, and I mean sometimes CGI cannot do everything.
Yeah.
So they'll come up at us. They'll ask, "Okay, we could do this. Hey, stunt department, can you give us this?" So I said, "Oh, okay. Well, we could give you that if you give me that." So sometimes everything is like cooperation with each department.
True. Speaking of pre-production, this is exactly where a film is properly made before you run into production. And I've noticed that the previous sequences or the stunt sequences shot during pre-production sometimes end up looking and feeling better than what ends up being in the final movie. And I guess this might also be like a reason might be because like the cinematographer, whoever is on working on the film set, doesn't necessarily understand action as much as you guys do. And how do you try to mitigate this if you are allowed to at all?
So we would get a script and we would shoot a preview and we would show it to the director. And certain directors will trust you 100%. And they'll shoot it the way you shot the previous, or sometimes they even let you go out and shoot the fight scene on your own. And they would just take care of the acting part. And some directors don't trust the previous and they try to shoot it themselves, then it always become less
Mediocre.
Yeah, let's put it that way. So I've worked with both directors, one who will follow the previous and one who just wants to shoot it their own way. So, but it's all up to the director, so you can't really, fight with them.
True. To what extent were you involved in Inception? Because I've always wanted to talk to somebody who was involved in like behind the scenes of this movie. Like, I mean, visualizing whatever is in that script must have been crazy. I don't know to what extent you were involved in that, but talk to me about that.
So I'm in Inception where this lady's opening a safe trying to get this letter. Excuse me. And then the whole building shakes and building is falling apart. And then all this water comes out. And we rehearsed it for 1 week. And we were going to shoot the real thing the following week. And I was telling my friend James Liu, James, there's no way they're going to shoot the whole thing in 1 week. We're going to be here for at least another 2 more weeks, is what I thought. But our director, Christopher Nolan, he knows exactly what he wants. So our working days are 5 days. So instead of shooting the whole thing in 5 days, he shot everything in 4 days, including all the water coming into the stage of the Warner Brothers, the whole building falling apart. And James Liu and I, we get crushed by all this falling debris from the building. Amazing sequence. Shot it in 4 days.
Wow.
Yeah.
I met James Liu at the San Diego Comic Con in 2019, and I think he was coming off of stunt coordinating on Luke Cage back then. And it always amazed me that there was this one shot I was telling him as well, where Cottonmouth chucks this one guy off a roof and he lands on the car below, and that was just like one single take. And it's amazing how much you can get done practically if you just I don't know, start thinking creatively. But how do you try to visualize something that hasn't been done before?
Well, Akash, I talked to James about that scene too.
Yeah.
Because we had to do something similar. and they did have like as he was falling, they had some kind of a green screen technology that they used, and they stitched everything so it looks like everything is just a one take. But it was done with some camera tricks. And funny story is, I was working in New York doing Jessica Jones, and then when I was finished, they asked me if I wanted to do Luke Cage, and I didn't want to be in New York for 6-7 months. So I said, you know what? I have a good friend named James Liu. He'll be perfect for this. And then they loved James, and so James ended up coordinating that series, and I'm really happy for him. He did a great job, and they even gave him an Emmy for that show. So I'm very happy.
You made that happen.
Well, James did it.
But you put them in touch. But I mean, it's amazing to see how tight you guys are. Also, like, okay, you don't want to spend that much time in New York. Sure, you got another buddy who can do an equally amazing job. And the fact that everyone, you guys come from martial arts backgrounds, like you essentially understand how action works because it's kind of like dancing.
Exactly. And also, James has given me shows like there was a show called Extraction with Bruce Willis, and he was shooting that in Alabama, and then James got a call to do Rush Hour TV series pilot. So he said, Simon, I got to go to LA and do this show. So why don't you take over and finish this show for me? So I went to Alabama and I did the show called Extraction. So it's good to have a good friend who could trust you, and we could share shows together.
Yeah. What's the hardest stunt you've had to coordinate?
It's just it all depends on how dangerous it is. On American Horror Story's first season, I had two ladies doing this gnarly, crazy stair falls, and both of the ladies had to do it 4 times each. And stair falls, if you do it wrong, you land wrong, you could break your neck. So every time they had to do it, I was holding my breath. So, yeah, I don't like stair falls or car hits. Those are also gnarly. So whenever we have a chance to do it, I would always ask them to pad up the stairs so at least soften up the landing. And if we could do the composite shot of car hits, so we'll shoot the lady getting hit. We'll pull the lady out with a wire gag first, and then we'll put the car pass by and then you composite the shot together so it looks like cars hitting a lady. So I rather do it that way instead of doing an actual car hit.
That's a good point that you mentioned. So, say when you have to come up with a previs for a scenario like that, what skills do you find you had to learn newly? Maybe say compositing. Maybe you might have to learn a little bit of After Effects to do that, or do you have somebody else to do that? Have you found that being in the industry and trying to meet its demands, you have to level up your skills on various other pathways that you never thought you might have to learn?
Well, one thing good about having pre-productions and the meetings about it, it always helps you, it gives you a few days to study the scene. Like, for instance, this car hit that we had to do, director wanted me to study this scene, Meet Mr. Black, where Brad Pitt gets hit by a car twice.
Mm-hmm.
So he wanted to do something like that. So then I would start making phone calls to see how it was done, who did it, how they did it. So that would be my homework. And once I found out, who did it, how they did it, then I would, get the right team, put the team together so that we could duplicate those kind of things. Yeah.
It's all about prep.
Yeah, good prep is really, really the most important thing in movie making, I think.
Yeah. And this, okay, so what I'm going to ask next might be a little bit of a controversial topic. And some people kind of like to talk about it. Some people like to debate it. Feel free to pick whichever you want. The lack of recognition for stunt work from the academy. This is like the topic that has been discussed so much. What's your take on it?
I mean, it would be nice to be recognized by Academy because we did come so much advanced now. We're not just tough and rough people who just fight and fall to the ground and don't mind getting hurt. I mean, it's become so scientific now with stunt department. I think it's time for Academy to acknowledge that. Without our stunts, there's no movies. And if you see all the movie trailers, more than 50% is stunt related. So I don't know why Academy is so stubborn about not having us on there. But I think, all in due time it will happen, and I believe it will happen. And I hope it does happen.
So do I.
I think it'll make the presentation even more exciting.
Yeah, it's gonna definitely add something to the show. Maybe the viewership might go up again.
Have you ever been to our Stunt Awards party at all?
No, I haven't.
We have a thing called Taurus Stunt Award, and we have it at Paramount Studio. And what we do is we show clips of all the best stunts, like best firework, best car work, best wire work, and just best hard hits. And we show clips and people vote, and the winner gets the trophy. And it's really, really fun event. And just having some of that in the Academy Award would be, I think, a plus. And I hope they realize that soon.
Yeah. Fingers crossed that day comes sooner rather than later.
Yeah. And I hope you could attend the Stunt Award one of these days.
Sorry?
I hope you could attend the show one of these days so you could see it.
I would love to. When does this happen?
This year is happening in September 17th.
Okay.
We didn't have it for a couple of years because of COVID.
Yeah.
But we're having it this year for sure.
Got you. If you do see James Liu and Andy Chen, give them my regards.
I will definitely do that. James Liu lives only 2 doors next to me, so I will talk to him.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, just walk over there and knock on his door.
Yeah, I will.
Not just Hollywood or Hong Kong, but has anything from any films from the recent past made you just go like, oh my God, how did they do that? And make you just scratch your head overnight, make you, give you a proper lack of sleep thinking about it.
So, I forgot the name of the Korean movie. Some kind of an office worker, but he's like an assassin. And he kills this guy and throws him over the stairs. And everything is done in one shot. And he falls to the stairs. And I was like, oh my God, how did they do that? This was like maybe 5 years ago. I saw this for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
So I know some stunt people in Korea. So I contacted them. I was like, how did they do this? It's so amazing. And then they told me how they did it. They put the pads on the stairs, so the guy would really fall. But then they had the pads painted green, so when he fell into it, later on they CGI, they removed the green pad, and then they made it look like it was on the stairs. So it was done really, really well. And I think Korea is getting really good at making movies. And matter of fact, tomorrow on Netflix, this Korean movie called Carter is going to be released. And this is the director who did the movie called Villainous. Have you ever seen that movie?
I love it. I was the sequence on the bus on the road. That was just so mind blowing. When you were just talking about Korean movies, I was thinking this is what came into my head. That was insane.
Yeah. So do you remember the motorcycle scene in Villainous?
Yeah.
So you know how John Wick 3, they copied that? Do you remember that?
Yeah.
So John Wick's director, Chad, who's a friend of mine, he called this director in Korea. And he said, "We love your scene so much, we want to duplicate it. Is that okay?" And then this Korean director gave him his permission. Yes, go ahead. So they duplicated it. So I thought that was really, really cool. So anyway, this movie that's coming out, Carter, it's supposed to be all like one long shot, no cuts in between. So check it out if you can.
It's releasing tomorrow.
It's releasing tomorrow. And they shot a little bit in Los Angeles, and they asked me to stunt coordinate that scene. So I stunt coordinated. We only did it for like maybe 2-3 days on it. But it's a small, tiny scene in Los Angeles. But matter of fact, the guy who did Luke Cage, he came out and did that scene. So yeah, check it out tomorrow. Yeah.
Definitely gonna go check that one out. So the entire movie is like a one.
That's what he said. But there's always camera tricks to get away. But it's supposed to look like a one.
I think the whole Warner kind of reached its peak with 1917 in mainstream cinema, but on television with Daredevil.
Yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about.
That was always fun to see, like how do you guys stitch stuff up and make the illusion of like making it look like one continuous take.
Yeah.
It's a whole lot of work from there, man.
It is. You got to do it over and over again if something goes wrong to make sure it flows nicely. So
Yeah. Fight choreography, vehicles, any logistical stunt work, wire work, pyro. What's your favorite and why?
I like them all. I like the challenge because if I do only one thing all the time, you get bored. Like if I have to choreograph fight all the time, it becomes boring. So, I like to, as I'm doing it, I'm still learning a lot. How to use the wire correctly, how to rig correctly, how to set the fire differently, how to do the car hits differently, how to do the stitching differently. There's so many different things to learn. And if let's say I know everything in stunt department, then there's other department that you could learn from too. So yeah, that's like, so if you look at the credit at the end of the movie, there's like 100, close to 1,000 people being credited, and they all have different jobs. So I'm just a kid in a big candy store, just keep learning, tasting new things. Yeah.
Well, that's good that you said you like all of that, because I'm probably going to get you down to Sri Lanka and have one scene where you involve all these elements.
That would be fun. Matter of fact, I stopped at the Sri Lanka airport on
When
my
was
way.
that?
I think this was 2020 January, right before COVID hit.
Right.
Me and my wife were on our way to Maldives. We had to stop at the Sri Lanka airport for a couple of hours layover. So, yeah, it was a good experience.
Nice. Well, hope you get to come to Sri Lanka someday.
I hope so too.
Yeah. Awesome. Simon, thank you so much for sharing all this stuff with us, and really looking forward to seeing Carter tomorrow and everything else you work on down the line. Thanks so much for making us martial arts enthusiasts childhood so awesome with stuff like
Let me
this.
ask you something, Akash.
Yeah.
So what kind of martial arts do you do?
Oh, I do karate, bit of Wing Chun. Not Wing Chun. I haven't learned Wing Chun, but I do it on the Mok Yang Jung. I practice on the Mok Yang Jung.
I practice Wing Chun too. Are you a
Yeah.
black belt in karate?
Technically, I would say yes.
Good. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Just
Yeah.
wanted to know.
Yeah.
Okay, Akash, it was fun talking to you.
Thank you so much, Simon.